friend, and when we meet after a week or two of not seeing each other, he always comes off with these needling negative comments about me personally. But, you know, they're kind of done with the affection, but they're seen as piercing, and there's some they're called barbs, and there's truth to them. But he's saying, "Hey, I'm your friend, I know you, but hey, you know, you did this or you did that." It's making me uncomfortable.
So your friend has spent a little bit of time with you, and at first you sort of smiled and laughed them off, but in time you got worn down, and now you're flat out what?
Angry.
You're angry. You've sort of had it.
Right.
And so where you are, as a result of what you've been giving your attention to, is where you are. So you have this range of vibration. And the range of vibration that you have in this case is, how severe would you say the anger is?
Well, as you said, it sort of goes up and down, ebbs and flows a bit, depending upon the last
But
barb.
right now, in other words, the last barb just came, and you received it clearly. And so what would you say your range of anger is? In other words, would you say you are enraged?
No.
Would you
highly irritated.
You're highly irritated. All right. Let us demonstrate first the way it works. So you've got this range of emotions. You reach for the best feeling place that you can find. And when you find it, you do your best to stay there for as little as 17 seconds. And when you do, that becomes your center range. And when that becomes your center range, then the horrible feeling thoughts that were there just a moment ago are out of range, and an even better feeling thought comes into range. Then you reach for the best feeling thought, and you hold it for 17 seconds, and that becomes your center range. So the really horrible thoughts are now out of range, and an even better feeling thought comes into range. So you reach for the best feeling thought that you can, you hold it for as little as 17 seconds. Now some of that really recent thought is already out of range, and a much better feeling thought is in range, and little by little by little by little, in 68 seconds or 2 or 3 minutes or 4 or 5 minutes, if you're diligent and willing to stay with it, you can shift your vibration so significantly that your relationship with this person must change, because you are on a different vibrational wavelength now than the friendship that you remembered and abhorred. You see how it works? And even the deepest of wounds from way back before you can even remember can be left behind by that reaching and finding the new vibration, reaching and finding the new vibration. So let's say you have 100 topics over a period of 30 days that you take the time to do that with. So we're talking about maybe 100 topics that you spend maybe 5 minutes on. It's not really that much time, but you're determined that you're going to find a better feeling place. You would so dramatically shift your point of attraction that every relationship you have would take on a new face. And if your friends aren't moving with you, then law of attraction would not line you up with them.
They wouldn't be your friends much longer.
Another set of people comes into your experience. So reach for that best feeling thought that you could find within that, and just express it to us. What's the best feeling thought? It might be the barb, it might not be, but go back to the moment when your friend has aggravated you, and reach for the best thought that you can find relative to your friend.
Well, just to bring up part of the conversation, my wife is pregnant, and going through that, and sort of congratulations. And in a joking way, he goes, "Well, you know, from here on down, your sex life just goes down the hill." And so the best thing I could think of was, "Are you speaking from personal experience?" And that kind of, that kind of chilled him out a bit, and then we just...
This is after the fact now. Your friend isn't with you anymore. You've had the conversation.
Right.
You came away from it feeling awful. Every time you think about it, you get right back into that funk. You're currently using your friend and your experience with him as your excuse to not allow the energy to really flow. You, on many levels, know that, and you resent him even more, because if he was more lovable, more love would be flowing through you. And the fact that love isn't flowing through you makes you feel really irritable, and you're blaming him for not being more lovable. That's almost always the way it goes, whether you recognize that it is or not. So here it is after the fact, a day later, or a week later, or a month later, and you're still somehow chewing over it, stewing over it. And so now you realize what's been happening, and you say, for long enough I've been using that friend and that experience as my excuse to not allow the energy to flow through me and to me. I don't want to walk away from this friendship. There is more there than that. I want this friendship to be one that is life-giving to both of us, but I can't get there from where I am right now. In other words, law of attraction is not allowing me to have those thoughts. So what's the best feeling thought that I can find about that friend right now? Reach for the best feeling thought you can find.
And the one I do use is, that's his way of expressing affection or love. Also, there's a little bit of jealousy there towards me.
All right, now stop for just a moment, because as you're going, you're letting it in, you're not letting it in, you're letting it in, you're not letting it in. In other
Right.
words, so reach for the thought that feels best. Don't lose track of what we're doing
I
here.
see.
We're not asking for explanation. We're not asking
Okay.
for justification.
Okay.
We're asking you to reach for the thought that feels best about him.
And that would be, that's his way of showing intimacy and love.
That's right, isn't it?
Yes.
You know that. And when you found that thought, it did feel better, didn't it?
Yes, it did.
So now stay there for a moment. Milk it. Let's make that a more dominant part of your vibration. So stay there a little bit and reflect in your mind something that it might say or how you really feel about him. In other words, take that thought and try to hold us there longer through words or descriptions.
I'm not sure.
There's a temptation to go back to the other because that's strong too.
Right,
But,
yeah.
but you got something going here and everybody felt it and you felt it. So milk it a little. Try to squeeze a little more advantage out of it.
Okay. Well, in this particular society for males, that is the preferred method of showing love and affection. That is the safe method, and that is certainly acceptable to me, and I'm glad to have it.
Sort of learned behavior, and a lot
Right.
of folks are doing it. And
Right, and you watch Monday Night Football, and that's the way it is.
all right, now that feels better, doesn't it? It does feel a little bit better.
Yes.
Now that became your center range, and you're not nearly as mad at him as you were a minute ago. It's
No.
diffused dramatically.
Yes.
Can you feel that? In other words,
Yes.
some of those feelings are right out of range. Now that doesn't mean that we couldn't work hard and go back and drag them in, and sometimes that happens. But right now, it doesn't feel natural to reach back there. It did get out of range, and something better popped into range. So let's see if we can go find it. Reach for it. Some better feeling thought even than what you just described is now within range. Reach for it and see if you can go there.
And once we get past that, we actually reach an area that's more intimate, more acceptable, and more direct in loving communication. So that is a step to that, which is better.
Good. Now that felt good, didn't it?
Yeah.
So now milk that a little more. In other words, you're talking about intimate expression, which is something wanted. You keep bringing that up. In other words, you're wanting this to be a really good friend. You're wanting to be a good friend to him. You're wanting him to be a good friend to you. So reach there just a little more because it's right here. So take it.
Yeah, I don't know what the next step is unless it's, well, I really love this guy.
Well, there's some of that, but that was a little out of range. That was one of those.
So there's a medium.
That was one of those light, fluffy thoughts that you really didn't quite have vibrational
last too
access
long.
to. So a sort of quantum leap that you didn't quite make the jump on.
Right.
But where you are is in a better place than you were. So stay there just a little bit. What you just said that felt really good was that some of this superficial stuff that he does that you really don't like, that almost everybody does, he does because he doesn't know what else to do. And beneath it, there is a very strong desire to be a very good friend to you. And you want to be a very good friend to him, and you are appreciative that he wants to be that friend to you. And so stay there and feel satisfaction in that friendship. And feel the friendship. In other words, now you can even let your imagination carry you a little bit. It could even go beyond what he currently is, but you're on a sort of roll there. And so as you begin to express even slight feelings of appreciation about him, he's often accessible and he makes himself available to you. And it seems that there are a lot of things that he could do, but he often will choose to be with you. In other words, you are high on his priority list as things go. Are we stretching too far?
No, that's fine. No, it is true that I am a priority on his friendship list. Certainly.
And so stay there and milk that just a little bit. You see, what you just said to us earlier is that we are born into circumstances, and sometimes things happen where our vibrations are dramatically influenced and affected. And since our vibrations are dramatically influenced and affected by past events, then here we are sort of victims to what our emotional offering is. And here we're saying, this is the opportunity that you have to bring